Well, the difference between AP and IB is it's a little bit like cooking. And so some foods you cook hot and fast, and some foods like barbecue you cook lower and slower to build more complex flavors. And so that's kind of how I think about the difference between the two. AP, you're learning more quickly, you're focused on certain types of questions that you're answering, and it's a little more memorization maybe, whereas IB tends to be building complex interrelationships between subjects and between topics, and really developing a depth of flavor, a depth of knowledge in the subject matter.
So I know a lot of underclassmen, when I think about like IB, especially if you want to do several IB or the full diploma, is they're worried about maybe it's just going to be nothing but lectures, maybe it's just hardcore, 80-minute long periods of just getting talked at by a teacher. And being in the full diploma program, honestly, that's not at all the case. It's every single class I take, I can give you examples over the past couple months of how we're doing projects, we're doing presentations, and it's a lot more interactive than I thought it would be. So for example, for biology, the past couple weeks, we did some dissections of an animal, and we looked at a whole bunch of different tissues through a microscope. And for geo, almost the entire curriculum is we're learning the curriculum through doing projects. So whether it's making a pamphlet about a certain disease and how it impacts people, it's never just a teacher goes up and just talks to you the whole time. And it's really, and honestly, if anything, it's more interactive than what my classes were like freshman and sophomore year.
I think would be helpful in deciding whether or not to do like the full diploma program or just IB classes in general is the second year you're required to do an IA or an internal assessment paper for most of your classes. And if you're taking a full diploma, these are usually pretty well staggered throughout the year, so that you'll have like one in September and one on October, and then the science ones are later in the year, so you don't feel too overwhelmed. But the only tricky part with the IAs is that sometimes they coincide with the extended essay deadlines, so it can feel like a lot of writing. So I would say if you're not like a very strong writer, or if you feel like that's not something that you enjoy, or it takes you a really long time to the point where it's like getting in the way of you actually completing the assignment, you might need to like take that into consideration before taking an IB class.
Today I'm going to answer the question, what is the difficulty to the reward ratio in the IB program? For me, I think it's really about what you put into it. And so if you have a difficult class, and if you do the work, you're going to get a lot out of it. But if you choose not to do the work, then you're not necessarily going to get as much out of it. But I think what's really amazing about the IB diploma is that you're working with all these people, and you have classes with all these people, and you build really close connections. So you're kind of all struggling together in a way that brings you a lot closer.
How would you feel about responding to a question that relates to people worried about feeling stuck in a class for 2 years?
Very good. We just got our schedules for next year, and we have 2 new teachers, 3 new teachers, which is, I did not know we could even do that. I thought we were stuck with our teachers for the whole time. So even if you don't like a teacher, there's a good chance that you're not going to be with them the next year, because a lot of the classes like geo, history, Spanish, English change up. Mm-hmm. So that's a fourth of your, that's a lot of your schedule.
That's 2/3 of your schedule
that can change. And so if you're unhappy with a class, you have that, but also you have so many people that you become close with and become able to share resources with that
I promise you don't want to change.
Yeah, and you can, even if you don't like a teacher or you don't like their teaching style, you have all these people that you can easily connect with and easily pop on the group chat with and ask it what the heck is happening with this homework, and you will get answers, and you will be able to really figure out a lot of stuff because you have your friends.
Tell me what it's like to be in the same class for 2 years.
So I really liked getting to be with the same group of people for that extended amount of time, because it's sort of, you don't have to deal with the whole like step up day, like adjusting to a new class dynamic in the beginning. Like it felt like from junior year to senior year, we sort of just like jumped back in where we left off, and at the end of it all, like I felt like groups were really close, especially in classes like biology and history and English, and it's just, you get close with a
tight-knit group of people, and then it's sad to say goodbye at the end, but it was overall really good.
Many colleges do see IB at the same level as AP. Oftentimes an SL IB class is more on the level of some AP classes, while HL might go into higher content, such as IB Bio being total a 3-year class, while AP Bio being a 2-year class. And I do think it's worth going through the work, even if the college you end up going to doesn't accept the IB credit, or if you're just viewing it as a small percentage boost in acceptance rate, because IB is really worth it for the skills and knowledge that you obtain through these classes, the connections that you can make through them, and a different understanding of learning in a more global sense. It's not just for getting into college. And I think that it's very beneficial if you go in with that mindset.
When I was going through the college process is that colleges would rather see that you like take on the highest workload and like the most high quality classes you can. And I think with IB and like the full diploma program, that really helps, because the diploma program especially comes along with like a lot of essays and work, which is like super rewarding, but it also shows that you're able to like keep up with that workload. So especially for those like more competitive colleges, they really like to see that you're able to handle a workload like that, so you're not gonna like go underwater once you get there. Additionally, the 2-year course sort of shows like prolonged interest in something, so I applied as a psych major, which can be pretty competitive for some schools, but because I had like a 2-year long course, they knew that I had gotten like a really good education baseline, and I was interested enough to take it for 2 years and do well in it. So that can really help if you're like want to apply to a specific major that you know can be a little bit more competitive than others.
Alex, can you talk about the workload in full IB?
I can. I mean, it's definitely a bit, but it's manageable if you do good time management. So I found for myself, like I'd wake up and I would go to school, and then I would have to go straight to practice, and I wouldn't be home until like 7 o'clock at night. But I wouldn't do anything until all my work was done, and I made sure that I left nothing behind, because the worst thing you do is let it build up, because then you get buried. So if you put in a little extra work on the front end, you get to have a little less stress on the back end. And I think that's how you really manage the slightly larger, but yet still manageable workload.
I'm a full IB diploma candidate, and at first I was going to do full AP just because I had heard that that gave like the best opportunities for colleges. But when I like talked to more IB teachers and like the seniors before who had done it, they mostly just talked about like how strong the community was and how supported they felt, and I didn't hear the same like things necessarily about like the community you build through AP, because there isn't really an AP advisory, and I love it so far. Our community has grown a lot stronger since the beginning of the school year. We do a bunch of things outside of school. We have cooking competitions, we hang out at each other's houses, we work on schoolwork together, and I do not think I would have had those same opportunities in AP. Yeah, I'm really happy I did IB.
My name is Mrs. Perkinson, and I'm the librarian here at Greely. I'm also the extended essay coordinator. The extended essay is a great opportunity for you to do some long-term research and really explore a topic and learn about a topic that you wouldn't normally learn about in your high school classrooms. It's also great preparation for college level research. All of our returning students talk about how much it prepared them for research in college and keeping track of sources. And you learn about yourself and your learning style and time management abilities, and you really get to reflect on those and develop them further. At the end of it, we publish all of the students' extended essays in a book together.
So what kind of skills are required to do the IB?
I wouldn't say it's a hard and fast, you have to know certain things. I think there's probably a couple habits to make sure you don't get too much work build up and things like that. So I don't think it's like, okay, you need to memorize how to do this certain thing before you take bio. I think you'll learn that along the way, but I do think that you have to have pretty good study habits if you want to make sure that you can balance it with other things?
So compared to other classes, usually our midterms and finals, especially in our senior year, are like mock exams, sort of like getting you ready and prepped for the exams you'll take in the spring. And senior year, actually, you don't have any finals, you're just focused on your exams, so you're not having any like added pressures to that at all. But yeah, I would say definitely end of junior year and midterm and senior year, you're very focused on getting ready for your exams. And I would say that the exam prep is really helpful. And but it's pretty traditional, like so far, like what you've learned up to that point, like material wise, that you go over.
I think it's important when considering taking IB and AP classes to think about your personal goals. If just getting as much college credit as possible out of the way in high school is your goal, I would lean towards the AP classes, as they're more easily transferable to most colleges. However, I think the learning experience is different. I have a mix of AP and IB classes. I used to be a part of the IB full diploma program, but it wasn't working for me, and because of I had to take an online class to make it fit, and I think I would first focus on what works for you before trying to make the diploma program work. If it does line up with what you have, I think it's a really cool program. I really liked aspects of it that I wasn't able to have when I stopped doing the full diploma program.
Some of the big projects that you complete in an IB course are the internal assessments for each class, which is 1 or 2 for each class. And these have turned out to be some of my favorite projects because you have a lot of personal freedom with what you choose to investigate in the assessment. It's rooted in your classwork, but you can expand it beyond your classwork if you choose to, which ended up being very fun for classes like history and bio.
So we get a lot of questions and guidance about AP versus IB. Which one's better? What do colleges want to see on an application? It's not so clear-cut. It's very individualized. The answer is very nuanced, dependent on each student, and honestly dependent on the college too. What college do you want to go to? What might you want to major in? I'm not saying you have to know what you want to major in. What are your passions? Like, what do you love to study in high school? What other classes and elective classes might you want to take? All of those things come into play when we're looking at a student's schedule, and our job is to advocate for you, the student, and what might be of interest to you, and try and put together the best possible transcript for you.